Diane, and welcome to another broadcast. Tonight we are going to be discussing, or I'm going to be sharing rather, some of my personal experience with the female hormone system and some of the things that kind of my family has gone through and I've gone through personally, and my thoughts on hormone replacement therapy and maybe some options that you could try first, and kind of share a little bit about what nutrition can do for you, or what role nutrition can play in your hormones being out of balance. So if you are new, my name is Diane, and for the past 25 years I have been helping women find nutrition programs and fitness programs to help them look and feel their best and live their most authentic life. And for me, the last couple of years, as I have become an aging woman and my hormones have been out of balance, I have been using intermittent fasting to kind of get my body back in balance and back on track. So thank you so much for joining. If you are new or you're one of my regulars, definitely post below that you're here so that I can see you roll up in my comments. And if you know of any aging women that you think might benefit from this topic, or might benefit from intermittent fasting in general, definitely always feel free to share these broadcasts so that we can help more women start to feel and look their best. So my body has always been very, very checked in, or I guess I've always been very checked in with my body in regards to my hormones and how my system works, and how my system has been in check or out of check with what I'm doing in life and my hormone system. And so I've shared a little bit before about some of our infertility struggles that we had between having Logan and having Gabby, and the fact that we had a miscarriage in between there. Hey, Katie, I think that is. How are you doing, girl? And the fact that it was all pretty much hormone imbalances, and I was able to fix that with nutrition. And the miscarriage that I had was also believed to be kind of hormone related. They weren't able to really determine whether it was like a stress hormone release that was in my body, because I was going through a very stressful emotional time when I was about 14 weeks into the pregnancy, or if it was my own body system reacting to increased levels of estrogen. And so for some women, increased levels of estrogen actually causes a clotting type of environment, and that's why all those warnings are on like birth control pills and stuff like that, that if you have that sort of clotting tendency, that increased levels of estrogen can cause your body to clot. And so that was one of the things that was suspected with my pregnancy, that it was about that time frame in the gestational period where if I did have that condition, a blood clot could have formed and blocked the nutrients and oxygen flow to the growing fetus, and that could have caused the miscarriage. So one of those things that just kind of has always had me on heightened alert. And then also knowing my family history with hormones, I had of one of my aunts who was actually my godmother, and probably the one that I'm most genetically connected to as far as looks. I don't know about anything else because she passed away when I was about 1 or 2. She was 21, but she passed away from blood clots associated with taking birth control pills. So all of these things in my life sort of just kind of connected, as that was just an issue that my body had with estrogen and blood clotting. And when things are out of balance with me, it is crystal clear what's going on with my body. And so as I started to age and as my hormones started to change, of course, hormone replacement was brought up in doctor's visits. And because I have that family history of blood clotting and I had that experience with the pregnancy, it was always that thing that was just kind of off the table for me, which I'm really grateful for, because I just knew that wasn't an option. And I had to do some research and find sort of some alternate routes as my hormones were kind of going wacko on me. And so what I've really found in my own research, and kind of just knowing my family history and knowing how my body feels when my hormones are in check and when they're out of balance, and how food has really contributed to some of that, especially as I've gotten older. And I openly talk about soy and the hidden dangers of soy, especially with women, and the fact that it is that phytoestrogen, which can kind of increase those estrogen levels and cause all kinds of problems for women. And that's why I've learned to just stay away from it, because I did feel those hormone reactions when I was consuming soy as I was aging. And so, when I started to kind of piece all the family history and my personal history, and then just the research on nutrition and how it affects us hormonally, when I pieced that all together and started to really think about what our bodies are designed to do on their own, and how much we and the medical society and, other, the food society and all that sort of interfere with the way our bodies were designed to work on their own. And so I always kind of base my rationale or my decision making on, would I do that to my daughter? And so I kind of asked myself the question, like, okay, I'm 50 and hormone replacement therapy is an option. Well, would I do a hormone depletion therapy on my daughter as her hormones are spiking? Right? And we would never even think about doing that to young girls, because our bodies are supposed to go through that process. Well, our bodies are also supposed to go through the hormone depletion process, and there is some imbalance involved in that. But we're always so quick to be offered these quick fix remedies to kind of just get us back in balance. And yes, I understand that every body is different and that every woman has a different scenario going into these situations. And I am not a healthcare provider and I am not an endocrinologist, but I'm just the kind of person that tries to piece together just some common sense stuff and really think about what our body's systems are designed to do and why we would interfere with that. And so really paying attention to your nutrition and knowing which types of foods are going to respond to your changing body and throw your hormones out of whack so that your perimenopause and your menopausal systems are actually worse than they're supposed to be. And then we throw on top just remedies to kind of subdue them or make them go away or to alter us so that we can handle them better. And so I always urge women, before you go, of course, unless there's a medical necessity, but if it's just a discomfort thing or a night sweat thing or a leg cramp thing or a kind of headache thing that goes away when you eat food or you do certain things, then I always urge you to do some research on food and what you have in your nutritional arsenal that you might be doing that's making those situations worse. Because some of it is just what happens to us as we go through the aging process. And again, I always defer back to my daughter. Would I drug her up, or would I give her antidepressants, or would I give her quick fix remedies to get her body through that season of life? Or as moms, do we just let them do it naturally and then just try to guide them and love them and nurture them and make sure that they're healthy and are in a great environment so that they can get through that process naturally? And so I would never consider doing that to my daughter, and that's how I make decisions for myself. I would never do that for me. And what I've done with nutrition is really remedy all of those side effects. So since I've cleaned up my nutrition, and I think I cleaned up my nutrition well enough before I actually started intermittent fasting, that I did start to see some relief from some of those traditional perimenopausal or menopausal type of symptoms. Insomnia started to go away, the night sweat started to go away, the leg cramps started going away, the irritability started going away, and all of those very typical type of hormonal imbalance symptoms were actually correcting themselves within my body because I stopped putting myself in a hormonal imbalance situation. And so all of those things should really be looked at before you go the medical route again, unless there is some medical necessity for it. And like I said, everyone's different. So if you're suffering from those things, I just urge you to give yourself some time and really look at what you're doing. Soy is one of the biggest hormone disruptors. So with all the women that are in my intermittent fasting group are finding, that soy's in everything, pretty much everything that is considered like a healthy marketed food is probably going to have soy in it, because they're taking something else out so they can market it as a healthy food, and they're putting soy in as a replacement. And we all believe that soy is good for us, when in fact it really is not. And it's not good for us women, it's not good for our daughters, it's not good for our husbands, and it's not good for our sons. It's causing all kinds of hormone imbalances with men as well. So if you are in those childbearing years and you're trying to, start to have children, and you are noticing that you're having some infertility issues, I would look to soy and see how much soy is in your life, and see if both you and your husband can get it out. Dairy is another one of those things that is considered a big hormone disruptor, because we as human beings and mammals are not supposed to drink other mammals' milk. We're just not supposed to. And so that's another one of those things where, with young kids, they're starting to see young boys developing breasts. We're starting to see young girls starting their menstruation very early in age, when their genetic history is not there to kind of merit that. And that's that thing to look at as well. And then we go down to the gluten thing. And yes, gluten does not affect everyone, but it will do some things to alter your body. And if you're not paying attention, you could miss something that could be causing something that some other side effect for you, or could cost something down the road. And the great news is that there's so many options anymore that we really don't have to suffer. We don't have to put our daughters through that. We don't have to put ourselves through that. And we could probably get by this whole season of change that we're going through, and this whole season of discomfort, with a little bit more self-control and a little bit more dignity and a lot less depression, if we just kind of paid attention to what we were doing. And then that other thing that, it's really hard for us women to accept, but, alcohol is another one of those things that is a huge hormone disruptor. And so if you find that you're feeling so miserable that you're kind of turning to that, bottle of wine, and I know sometimes it starts out as a glass and it can very innocently become 2 or 3 or an entire bottle. It happens. It's just what happens when we're stressed out and we're busy and we're not feeling good. And then we end up in that morning in that cycle of doing something else to make ourselves feel good until we get to the night, and then we have another glass of wine, and you're in this cycle of always kind of finding something to cover up the symptoms, and you never let your body just be and relax and self-correct. So if you are a woman suffering from these kind of perimenopausal or hormone imbalance issues, I strongly suggest that you take a look at your nutrition, do some research on the internet. When you research on the internet, always look kind of with one eye. So you're going to look with the research eye, and then you're going to look with the skeptical eye. And then I say what you want to do is sort of research, experiment, and implement, and then evaluate. And when you're in the evaluation process, just figure out if it worked for you. And if it worked for you, then wow, you found a solution and you can start to feel some relief. And if it didn't work for you, then you kind of just take that advice and you shove it aside, and you keep researching until you find the things that work for you. So I'm going to look and see what some of these comments are that are coming here. Michael sleeps good now. Good evening, Dan. Yeah, I don't care for soy. Yes, Tarsha, soy is nasty. Katie, Michelle, Nancy. Okay, good. Okay, so yeah. So it's just that thing that, remember, when our hormones start to change later in life, it is natural. Our bodies are supposed to go through that. We are out of our childbearing years. There's certain things we just don't need to have at elevated levels anymore. And if you start to feel like you're a little bit out of balance, like I said, just give yourself some time. Give yourself an opportunity to get some research done, do some experimenting, some implementing, and then do some serious evaluating, and see if you can find some things that might just create a little bit of relief for yourself. I have been sort of, reeked with my hormones my entire life. High school was bad. And then I had, when I finally got into those childbearing years, with Logan, it was super easy. And then that second and third pregnancy were really rough on me, and it was all very hormone related. And I found out a lot about my family history and kind of put pieces to my puzzle together, and it all started making sense. And thank goodness I did, because I have never really been able to have any of that kind of increased estrogen in my body. It just makes me feel sick, and I'm grateful for that now, because I probably would have done some sort of fertility thing trying to get pregnant with Gabby, and we didn't, because I know my family history. And then now in, the later years, I know that hormone replacement is just off the table because it could be that thing that could literally kill me. So I hope this offers some relief or gives you some insight to the fact of, there are options for you if you are sort of feeling like you're out of balance. Definitely, feel free to, I went to my doctor, like when I was having problems. I just didn't take the advice that he gave me because I didn't want to go that route. But I went to my doctor to make sure everything else was okay. And just know that just because you get your hormone levels tested and they come back normal does not necessarily mean that they're normal for you. That you could still be very out of balance and you could still be suffering a lot of hormonal imbalance symptoms with your hormones being in check. So I went from my hormones being in balance to total menopause within about a year, but I was feeling all the symptoms when my hormones by a blood test were in balance. So you're not crazy. You were definitely feeling those things, and just do what you need to do for your own self-care so that you don't feel crazy, and definitely don't let anybody tell you that you're crazy. You are not. Everything that you're feeling is real. I hope this offered some relief or some information for you if you are struggling. Again, if you feel like you would like to share this with someone who you think might be struggling, who could benefit from this, sometimes it's just nice to know that we're not alone. And so I say share this with someone that you know might be struggling, just so they know that they're not alone and they have other women that are going through the same things. I am going to cut it off for tonight. I've got a dog that's acting crazy and I got a kid to put to bed, so I'm going to jump off, but I appreciate you guys being here with me tonight. As always, make sure that you check back in tomorrow if you have any comments or you have any questions that you had from tonight to tomorrow, and I'll go back in and make sure that I answer them personally for you. And then I am taking tomorrow night off. We have some family obligations, but I will be back here on Thursday night at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, so I hope you'll join me then. Have a great night, you guys.